Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the third film to be based on the popular Sega video game series. The film is once again directed by Jeff Fowler and stars Jim Carrey, Ben Schwartz, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, and Idris Elba, with Keanu Reeves joining the cast as Shadow. In the film, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles face Shadow, who allies with the mad scientist Robotnik in pursuit of revenge against humanity. This review will be spoiler-free. I had so much fun with this film. As someone who didn't really enjoy the first two Sonic films, I am happy to say that they have finally nailed the tone for this franchise with the third entry. The globe-trotting element elevated the story above the first two, and made it feel different. The opening action sequence, with Sonic fighting Shadow on the bike in Tokyo, had legitimately good choreography. Zipping through traffic and up and down buildings, this felt like Akira. At times, the fight sequences felt like Dragon Ball, which is definitely a thumbs up for me. Keanu Reeves does a good job as the voice of Shadow, and his backstory was actually kind of touching. But much like the previous films, I think it's Colleen O'Shaughnessy who does the best voice work playing Tails. It has you wondering why they didn't cast all the video game actors for their film counterparts, as while Ben Schwartz and Idris Elba do respectable jobs as Sonic and Knuckles respectively, you just can't beat a professional voice actor. I wish that Hollywood films would cast proper voice actors, as there are so many of them, and yet they always cast screen actors. I would like to hear Sonic's iconic voice from the games. James Marsden and Tika Sumpter as Tom and Maddie have always been a bit of a sore spot for fans with these films. People get bored when the film focuses on underdeveloped human characters, and while they're still not that well developed here, they actually get some fun stealth stuff to do in London that serves the story. I also appreciated the 90s joke when Tom blows on the USB to get it to work. They don't have all that much screen time though, so it's okay. Even though I like them as actors, I'm not dogging on them as actors, it's just that the characters are kind of uninteresting. Thankfully, there isn't anything as lame and time-wasting as the wedding subplot from the second film. That was rough. A human character I never much cared for was Agent Stone, but he gets a major upgrade in this film. It was really fun to see him team up with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. There were a lot of funny jokes in this film actually, and I laughed quite a lot. And not just because of Jim Carrey. Of course, Jim Carrey garners most of the laughs though. I've always loved him in films, and he gets to play here in a way that he hasn't in a while. He has talked a lot about retiring from acting, and I hope he doesn't, but this would honestly be a good film to go out on. He gets to do a lot of improv and come up with lines, and he has many great jokes, the best jokes of the whole trilogy. He plays both Robotnik and his grandfather this time around, which was really fun, and the effects worked well. I was so pleased that this film felt sincere and unafraid to offend with its jokes. It doesn't feel embarrassed about being a Sonic movie like so many modern blockbusters do. They have to wink at the audience, look how silly this is. Thankfully, this film didn't do that. The comedy in this film was more reminiscent of the unhinged comedy of the 2000s. Sure, there's like one or two little meta moments, but it still feels pretty genuine. It feels like the filmmakers actually like what they're making, and they're not just doing it to get money. I've missed the 2000s style comedy. The lack of sensitivity in the comedy in this film is a step in the right direction for Hollywood blockbusters. Can the pop culture references that Sonic spews out get a little annoying? Sure. I can tell you I didn't really appreciate the Ringo Starr joke. Some of the jokes can feel out of touch with what kids will understand, but then maybe it will introduce them to classic films because Sonic is such a film buff. It's a bit like Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Avengers Infinity War. That's, I guess, one criticism I can have with this film, is it does feel a little bit too much like a Marvel movie, but not when it comes to that sort of insincere comedy I was talking about before. Just in the way that like it situates its characters and has like 3 big action sequences in Act 3 instead of just one. The cinematography is kind of ugly, as you have probably come to expect, but the CGI is mostly serviceable. I'm not really looking for those technical, film school card elements to tick off when I'm going to see a Sonic movie anyway. That's not excusing the film. If the film was bad, I would say that the film is bad, but I really did think this was a pretty awesome, fun time. Audiences enjoy these films. Each one makes more money than the last, and that's a great thing. They do a pretty decent job with their budgets, so much so that you can bet that we're gonna get many more of these, and I hope we do. I hope they keep getting better too, because this was far and away the best film in the series. I would have probably tapped out at this point if this wasn't good, because I really didn't enjoy those first two movies. There was elements of them that worked, but I didn't really enjoy them overall. As someone who didn't, and someone who only played a couple of the games as a kid, I wasn't super into Sonic, I was more of a Mario guy. I'm now a fan of this series when it comes to the movies, and I'm keen to see where they go from here. The third act does drag on a bit. You know how it's going to end 20 minutes before it ends, and yet they just keep going, they just keep dragging it on and on and on. But I am happy with the ending, and I'm happy with where the characters end up. I hope that they respect the ending going forward and are willing to do new things and not kind of retcon it out of fear for what the audience is going to think. We've seen that done too many times before. I just hope they let this ending be what it is. I think the series does need to go into a new direction now, because we need to keep it from growing stale, and I think that it would be stale if we just keep doing the same sort of formula that we have been doing. They've kind of done all they can do with this version of the ensemble of characters, so I'm keen to see something different. It's no surprise that this tone feels so perfect, as Jeff Fowler is a Sonic fan who worked on Sonic games. When you give Fowler enough control, assemble a good ensemble of characters, allow the story to travel to different places, give Jim Carrey room to play, and you lessen the screen time of those other human characters, then this is what you get. A funny, action-packed film that kids and fans of the games will enjoy. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a winner.